The RedRock 4x4 Attack Stubby front bumper with winch mount is for those of you that have a 2007 to 2018 JK that are looking for an aftermarket front bumper that's going to add a bunch of features and also change up the look of your Jeep. This is going to be a 1 out of 3 wrenches for a nice, easy bolt-on installation, and I'm going to show you how to get it installed on your Jeep in just a second. So generally when you're shopping for a bumper, you're going to be looking for either more features, a different look, and or protection, and this bumper is going to give you all of that. A bunch of new features with the winch mount, the additional recovery points, and with the brush bar up here that also acts as another spot to mount some auxiliary lights. So a ton of features here. It is going to be shorter, steel bumper, powder coat finish, so definitely a different look, and the fact that it is steel instead of plastic like your factory bumper means it is going to offer a little bit of additional protection up on the front of your Jeep. Now, as far as the rest of the features go and how it compares to your factory bumper, we're going to do that comparison in just a second. But overall, if you're looking for a stubby front bumper, RedRock 4x4 is a great company to take a look at. They're known for building a high quality product at a very fair price. This one comes in at right around $230, which I think is going to be a pretty good deal for what you're going to get here. So as I mentioned before, easy install. Let me show you how to do it. For this installation, we just needed a couple of sockets, an 18mm and a 17mm. We drove those with a extension and a 3/8 drive impact. We also used a small socket, a 7mm with a 3/8 to 1/4 inch adapter. We used a 6mm Allen head socket and a P2 Phillips head socket, also a small Allen key, and finally a 17mm wrench. This bumper is going to be a nice easy 1 out of 3 wrenches for the installation, and of course the first step is going to be removing your factory front bumper. So as you can see, ours have been on and off a bunch of times, and we're actually missing a couple of the plastic pieces. So if your Jeep is 100% stock, the first step in the uninstallation is going to be removing the frame cover. That's a small piece of plastic that goes between the grille and the top of the bumper up on top of the frame, and there are 2 plastic clips to remove in order to get that off the Jeep. Then you'll want to remove your splash shield. If that's still installed, it's going to attach to the bottom of the bumper and to your crash bar, and again, there are just some plastic clips that hold that in place. You can use a trim removal tool or a screwdriver to get those clips out of the way and get the splash guard off. Once those 2 pieces are removed, you'll have exactly what you see here, which is just the bumper installed. So in order to get the bumper off, we're going to remove the 8 nuts that are holding it in place, and you can gain access to them right through here from the back of the frame rails. There are going to be a couple on the inside that I'm actually going to have to get underneath the Jeep to reach, but once we have all of those off, we can get the bumper off the Jeep. With all of the bolts removed, the last thing you need to do in order to get the bumper off the Jeep is unplug the fog lights, which is going to be a different process depending on the year of your Jeep, but either a little bit of a turn or a plastic clip, you'll be able to disconnect that fog light wiring harness from the back of the fog light itself, then just give the bumper a grab and remove it from the Jeep. We have a RedRock 4x4 bumper just sitting on the frame rails here. It's not completely assembled or bolted on, but I wanted to put it side by side with the factory bumper to really show you the differences and the similarities. So obviously the big difference is that this is a stubby bumper and your factory bumper is a full width bumper. So you can see these wings on the outside here completely deleted on the RedRock 4x4 bumper. It's going to give you a really aggressive look, and if you're running a really big tire on your Jeep, you're not going to have any clearance issues with the bumper, and when you're off-road, you can have direct access from an obstacle to the tire without having to worry about that bumper getting in the way. So a bunch of different reasons for having a stubby bumper, whether it be functional or just for the look. I personally really like the look and function of a nice short stubby bumper. As far as some of the other features go, as you can see, this does accept your factory fog lights, which is a very nice feature. You don't find that on a lot of stubby bumpers just because there's not a lot of real estate, but you are going to be able to take the factory fog lights out of your factory bumper, bolt them right into your new bumper, and be able to utilize those again. Again, really, really nice feature. You have all of the switching, the wiring, the lights already. Why not purchase a bumper that allows you to use them? And this bumper is going to do just that. As you can see, this has recovery points where your factory bumper also has recovery points. I much prefer a D-ring to a hook like this, especially if you're using something like a snatch strap. A snatch strap is designed to have a little bit of slack in the line and have the recovering vehicle get a little bit of momentum going. And during that process, if you just have a hook like this, the loop of the strap can pop off. A D-ring is going to be a much more secure way of attaching a recovery strap to the bumper. So again, I really prefer this over the recovery point on the factory bumper. As you can see, the RedRock 4x4 bumper has this hoop up here that can be used to mount a couple of additional lights. Your factory bumper isn't going to have any of that, and your factory bumper is also not going to be able to hold a winch. It's obviously a plastic bumper. It's nowhere near strong enough and doesn't have the surface area across the top in order to mount a winch, where your new RedRock 4x4 bumper does. So it's going to be pre-drilled for all of the standard footprints of a winch, and it also is going to have this fair lead mount here. So regardless of what brand winch you decide to go with, you're going to be able to bolt it right up to your bumper. So more differences than similarities between the RedRock 4x4 bumper and your factory one, and I think it's really clear to see all of that when you have them side by side like this. With the bumper removed from the Jeep, now we can get the factory fog lights unbolted from the bumper so we can put them in our new bumper. These aren't going to be exactly factory fog lights, but the process is going to be the same. Now it's time to bolt our fog lights into our new bumper, but as you can see, there's going to be a big space over here on this side, and that's where this bracket comes in. We're going to get the bracket bolted down first, and then that gives us a nice flat mounting surface across here to bolt our fog lights onto. In order to get that installed, we're going to use some of the included hardware. We have a small screw, a lock washer, and a flat washer. And then these holes in the bracket on the bumper itself are already threaded, so we just have to spin the screw in. And a small Allen key to tighten it up. We have one more on the bottom, and then we can move on to the lights themselves. And the fog light will sit just like that. Again, we'll use the included hardware, a bolt, lock washer, flat washer, another flat washer on the other side, and then the nut. I'm going to be putting in the bolts from the back side so that I have access to the nut, just because it's going to be easier for me to tighten down. But you can certainly do it the other way as well. Hold the back side with our Allen key and spin the nut on. Now it's just a matter of repeating that process for the other three bolts, and then the same process over on the other side. The last step before getting the bumper bolted onto the Jeep is installing our brush guard, light bar, hoop, whatever you want to call it. And this just gets bolted right on the top here through these three holes on either side with the included hardware. Now, also included in the box are some block-off plates. So if you decided not to run this, you could just bolt your block-off plates over top of this. It just takes the holes that are right now oblong and is going to give you a nice clean round hole with a bolt head through it, just to clean everything up and seal it off a little bit better. But we're going to go ahead and use our bar. So we have a bolt here with a flat washer over the top. Get that started in one of these holes over here. And then on the back side, we're going to put another flat washer, a lock washer, and then our nut. Do the same thing over here just to get it started, and then we'll go back through and put the rest of our hardware in. Anytime you're getting anything like this bolted down, you want to leave all of the hardware finger tight until everything's started, then you can go through and tighten it. With all of the hardware started, we'll go back and tighten it. At this point, we're ready to bolt the bumper onto the Jeep. Now, if you were installing a winch on this bumper, you could bolt it to the bumper before bolting the bumper on the Jeep. It's up to you. Sometimes it can be a little bit easier to get to that hardware, but we're not installing a winch, so again, time to bolt the bumper up. There are going to be a couple of studs on the back side of the bumper that will align with the frame rails. Once we have those lined up, it should click right in place. There we go. And we're just going to attach a couple of the nuts with some of the washer hardware just to hold everything in place so it doesn't fall off. Then we'll get the rest of the hardware and get all that put on. With all of the hardware started by hand, we'll go through and tighten it down. So if you are looking for a pretty nice stubby bumper that adds a lot of features over your factory one, I would recommend taking a look at this option from RedRock 4x4, and you can find it right here at ExtremeTerrain.com.